this was an education session.
We have more and more uncertified teachers in public schools.
Teachers across the state were tired of, that boys. Like, oh, you're doing so great, but they can barely feed their family.
I think every school shooting brings up security.
We're driving now. We're headed in the right direction. We're just not getting there fast enough.
As lawmakers always say, students are our future and they are our future workforce, so it's important to get it right.
Hi everyone, my name is Lacey Beasley. I am the lead reporter here at CBS News Texas when it comes to education. I'm here with Andrea Lucia, she's a part of our I-team, and I'm here with Jack Fink, who is our Eye on Politics reporter. We've been having conversations about Texas education. I know we just talked about the education savings account program that was hefty and a lot of different layers to that, but there's also a lot more that's going on in Texas education. The session just wrapped, and Jack, there's a lot of bills that passed when it came to education.
There are, and despite how you at home may feel about what passed, I think there's a good argument to be made that this was an education session. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, we had the school choice program, education savings account, $1 billion, the largest in the United States. But there were also a lot of other big bills that passed. I want to go through some of these bills very quickly to let people know. So first is House Bill 2, which spends an extra $8.5 billion. This is new money for school districts, which includes teacher pay raises. House Bill 6, Teacher Bill of Rights, which allows districts to clamp down on disruptive students. Senate Bill 10, requiring every classroom in a public school to display a copy of the 10 Commandments. Then there's Senate Bill 11, which allows districts to set up voluntary time for students and staff to pray, and parents are going to have to opt in on that. Then there's Senate Bill 12, which is a ban on DEI programs and policies involving curriculum and hiring by school districts. And Senate Bill 13 gives school boards and parents more controls over the library books that appear in public schools. And the legislature also bans cell phones for students in K through 12 during school. And one other thing I would point out is an extra $430 million for school security, which will be a help to the school districts. But certainly, Lacey, the big topic is HB 2, the school funding bill.
That has definitely been a hot topic too. I know that was passed kind of as the answer, I guess you could say, to the education savings account program that also passed. How are public schools going to be funded now? And HB 2 is the answer to that. So let's see a breakdown of it. The last time the state legislature passed an education finance package was in 2019, 6 years ago before the COVID-19 pandemic. This $8.5 billion investment is historic. Nearly half will go towards teacher pay raises. In districts with 5,000 or fewer students, teachers with 3 to 4 years of experience will receive a $4,000 raise, while those with 5 or more years of teaching experience will get $8,000. In larger school districts, over 5,000 students, teachers with 3 to 4 years of teaching experience will receive a $2,500 raise, and teachers with 5 or more years will receive $5,000. HB 2 also provides funds to give support staff raises while also pumping money into the Teacher Incentive Allotment, which is a state program that provides raises for teachers in high need or rural areas and improve student grades. Money is also set aside to help teachers pay for their certifications if they teach core subjects. The goal is to have only certified teachers teaching core subjects by the 2029-2030 school year. Schools will see the amount of their basic allotment raised by $55 to $6,160. That's how much schools get per student. Lawmakers also created an allotment for basic cost, a fund of $1.3 billion to help relieve budget issues and help pay for things like insurance premiums, utilities, and costs outside the school district's control. There's also money designated for school security, early learning programs, special education, career and tech education, and charter school facilities. $8.5 billion sounds like a lot of money, but we also have to remember we're in Texas, and Texas deals with big dollars. So in reality, the $8.5 billion may not go that far, and the basic allotment that was risen by $55 is still less than what some people were hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about $8 billion, sounds like a lot. $55 per student sounds like less. School districts that I've talked to, we're hoping to get a whole lot more money out of this, and specifically that student allotment, which allows them to be flexible with the money and allows them to put it toward, what they feel is most useful to them. We're in Texas. Rural districts have very different needs from urban districts.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats clearly were not happy with the $55 increase in the basic allotment. And the basic allotment for everybody is just the per student. But what Republicans said was this is a basic allotment for a reason. It's just the beginning. And so what they did in this bill is they added other allotments along the way. And they're telling the districts, we're giving you this amount of money and you have to spend it on this. And they do that in a variety of ways. So they say, don't worry about the basic allotment being $55. We're giving you so much more money, but you just have to spend it the way we tell you. Let's take a look.
So, 55 is almost nothing, but when you actually calculate it all out, it's going to be much more like $0 increase to the basic allotment. I think a school finance package should fund schools, not fund special projects related to schools. And some of these special projects are worthwhile, but the legislature is trying to act like the school board of Texas, and that is not our role. We have to respect local communities and allow them to make decisions for themselves.
$55 added to the basic allotment represents not even 7% of the total new dollars flowing to public education, to our schools in this legislation. So all the focus on the basic allotment and adding $55 has been focus that has left 93% of the new dollars out of the conversation. The Senate has been very focused on restructuring the old archaic ways that we deploy dollars to our public schools because our outcomes have just not been meeting expectations.
So you can see really the differences in opinion where Democrats are and Republicans are. And there's really another big issue that was highlighted this session, and that is uncertified teachers.
Yeah, that's a really big topic for a lot of parents that I've talked to. A big question that many people may not realize is lots of teachers in Texas are not certified. You don't have to be certified. So coming up after this break, we're going into more details about that and how parents can check for certifications.
Welcome back to The Learning Curve here on CBS News Texas. And one of the big issues that we've seen is that according to the Texas Education Agency, 13% of the state's teachers leave the workforce every year.
Yeah, and in an effort to get teachers into the classroom, into public schools, private schools, charter schools, a lot of these schools are hiring uncertified teachers just to get more hands in there. So, Andrea, that may come as a surprise for many people because that hasn't always been the case.
Yeah, it hasn't always been the case. Right now, the Texas Education Agency estimates about 13% of teachers in the workforce are uncertified. 5 years ago, less than 4% were uncertified. So think about it. If you've got a student entering the 5th grade, the chances of them getting an uncertified teacher has more than tripled since they entered school. And I spoke to a Texas Tech professor, Jacob Kirksey, who really dug into this data, and he found it is especially bad for rural schools. In 40 counties, most of them rural, he found more than 80% of new teachers entering the workforce were uncertified. Districts serving a large number of low-income students also saw a larger than average number of uncertified teachers. But one of the things that Kirksey talked about as part of these numbers is that right now the system's not really set up to incentivize teachers to get certified.
So I think that poses the question, why get certified in general for any of these teachers? If you could get hired as an uncertified teacher, why get certified?
We are facing the challenge right now that we have more and more uncertified teachers in public schools.
For the 2024-25 school year, an estimated 30,000 first-year teachers with no prior teaching experience were hired in Texas. Less than half of them were certified. To find out what that means, we spoke with two experts in the education field. Catherine Dixon with East Texas A&M, and Jean Streepy, a North Texas teacher and the chair of the State Board for Educator Certification.
To have a certified teacher in the classroom means that they have undergone training to lead to their success.
Those teachers must also pass state exams for the certification program.
In the state of Texas, we have an early childhood through 3rd grade certification. We have an early childhood through 6th grade certification. We have 4th through 8, and we have 7th through 12.
It's a process that usually takes more than a year to complete. If a teacher is not certified, studies show students are more likely to fall behind. Recent research out of Texas Tech University says on average, students with uncertified teachers lose 3 to 4 months of learning. So why hire an uncertified teacher?
Right now, it seems to be a bit of a necessity for where it's just there aren't certified teachers available maybe for those positions.
I think it's important to think through what is the teacher teaching and to whom they are teaching it. So are they teaching a 2nd grader how to read, or are they bringing some important industry skill to high school students?
In 2015, state lawmakers created what's known as Districts of Innovation, allowing public school districts to apply for exemptions to sections of the Education Code, like hiring uncertified teachers to fill positions. According to the Texas Education Agency, there are 986 districts of innovation, 155 of them in North Texas. That's every school district in the area except Tioga ISD in Grayson County.
It's important to note, charter and private schools are not required to hire certified teachers. But Streepy says the positive impact to having them in the classroom is invaluable.
Research will tell us that certified teachers stay longer and their students achieve more.
Both women agree it's a lot of work to become a certified teacher, but the support is out there.
To ask a teacher to become certified, it takes more time, it's harder, it's more expensive, but we as communities reap the long-term benefits of that.
As a university educator preparation program, we are committed to working with other universities here in the state, and we already do. We really want to work collaboratively to try to help get well-prepared, highly qualified teachers in all of the classrooms in the state of Texas.
And watching that, I think, really raises a legitimate question for parents, and that is, how does this issue impact their students? And Andrea, you've been looking into that.
Right. Well, I mean, uncertified teachers are more likely to quit. More than 30% of them leave after just the first year in the workforce. Jacob Kirksey, the Texas Tech professor I mentioned earlier, he found that students with uncertified teachers are more likely to fall behind. I'll read the numbers right here. He said kids in 4th through 9th grade who had uncertified teachers were on average 3 months behind in math and 4 months behind in reading compared to kids with a certified teacher. Take a listen right here.
Not only are students learning less in academics, not only are they more disengaged and showing that via absences and having greater disciplinary incidents as a result of these teachers, but also these teachers are clearly missing out on some students who need some dyslexia support. I found that basically if you had an uncertified teacher in that year that you were required to be screened, you were twice as likely to be underdiagnosed for dyslexia.
And I just want to point out, he didn't intend in any of this to sort of disparage uncertified teachers. They're showing up, they're doing the work, but they just don't have the preparation. They don't have the same tools that certified teachers do.
They don't have the training in being in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of parents question too, they're not totally aware that there are uncertified teachers in the classroom too. I went to Clyde Warren Park. I talked to about a dozen parents. Every single parent I talked to did not know that there was a platform where you can go and type in your teacher's name and see if they're certified. So I showed it to one mom, and here's what her reaction was.
That's a very big concern for me because, like, if your child really needs the development and the teacher hasn't had the resources to help teach your child, then how's your child being helped?
Did you know that there's a website where you can look up if your child's teacher is certified?
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Can I show it to you?
Yes.
I'll show you this website. It's through the Texas Education Agency. You type in TEA teacher certification. Can go there, scroll down, certificate lookup, and type in last name, first name of your teachers, and then search if they're certified.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that.
Would you want to look up one of the teachers and see if they are certified? Okay, I'll let you type in their last name and then their first name.
Okay.
Status says valid. She is certified.
Oh, that's really good to know.
So you could go through and search all your students, all your kids' teachers, see if they're certified or not.
We've broken down the issues. Coming up next, we're going to focus on the solutions. And welcome back. Turnover among Texas teachers remains high after hitting an all-time record 2 years ago when 13% of teachers left the workforce. That same year, the governor commissioned a task force to look into the problem of this growing shortage. I was really curious about what these teachers found, how they felt about the work they did, and how they felt about how this has been implemented in the years since. So I went back and found 2 of the teachers who served on that task force and asked them. How do you feel about your time and the work that you did on the task force?
I initially felt disgruntled, to be honest with you, because I'm not a waiter. But after a year, things started happening. The wheels started moving faster and faster.
A teacher at Dallas ISD's Burnett Elementary, Eric Hale, was one of 46 people from across the state chosen to serve on the governor's teacher vacancy task force from 2022 to 2023. Together, they examined how Texas could improve teacher recruitment and retention, and they created a list of recommendations broken into 3 categories: improving teacher compensation, improving teacher working conditions, and improving teacher training and support.
I was specifically involved with compensation. Teachers across the state were tired of, that boys. Like, oh, you're doing so great, but they can barely feed their family.
The task force recommended both an increase in overall teacher pay and investing in programs like the Teacher Incentive Allotment, which aims to reward higher performing educators with higher salaries. In the last decade, Hale, a one-time Teacher of the Year, says those incentives have allowed him to more than double his salary. Texas lawmakers have now woven the task force's salary recommendations into school funding bills.
So I think we're still fighting that battle with attrition.
Highland Park ISD teacher Jean Streepy's work on the task force focused on how to better train and support teachers. The task force also recommended establishing a teacher residency pathway, something Streepy was able to help get accomplished already as a member of the State Board of Educator certification.
We have codified a residency program pathway for new teachers. It's a whole new pathway where teachers are in the classroom for an entire year working alongside another mentor teacher rather than having a classroom of their own.
Hale and Streepy, though, both feel there's still work left to be done.
I would like to see a greater sense of urgency. We're driving now. We're headed in the right direction. We're just not getting there fast enough.
There was some frustration that the task force's recommendations didn't have a bigger impact 2 years ago when they first came out, but I know you're very familiar with this. The legislative session at that time had a lot of education bills that went nowhere, and that was a big education for the teachers involved on the political process and how it can work.
And I think the lawmakers this session got the message because both Republicans and Democrats definitely wanted to deal with uncertified teachers. I spoke with the Republican State Senator Brandon Creighton, who is the chairman of the Senate's Education Committee. Let's take a look at what he has to say.
This bill will not only provide pathways for teachers to get certified, but it pays for them to get certified, and it rewards our schools with incentives to do so. It also makes sure that by the year 2030, that we don't have any teachers in the classrooms for kindergarten, first, second, and third grade teaching our foundational subjects that are uncertified. We just have to make sure that's the case.
Another issue that lawmakers dealt with was about school security, and not just about funding for school security, but really making it safer for the students inside. I'll tell you about that coming up.
There's the physical security, and there's also a cybersecurity element too, which coming up after this break, we're going to dive into those details, funding, the money that goes into it, the procedures behind that, and that's all coming up.
Welcome back to The Learning Curve on CBS News Texas. I'm Eye on Politics reporter Jack Fink, along with my colleagues Lacey Beasley, who's the lead education reporter for us, and I-Team reporter Andrea Lucia. And we're very committed to covering education here, and so we've been taking a deep dive into the major education bills that have passed this session. And one of those is on school security. We told you before that the state is injecting $430 million of new money into school security. But Andrea, you can't really talk about school security without talking about the horrific tragedy in Uvalde 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And you were there. You covered it.
I was. I think every school shooting brings up security. Uvalde, though, was pretty unique. It brought up the failure to act by law enforcement. It brought up the responsibility to act of law enforcement. We saw issues involving doors. We saw issues involving guns. There was just a lot to look into. And
the specific failure of law enforcement to go in after that shooter was something that was addressed previously by Governor Abbott, but now even more firmly by the legislature. They passed unanimously House Bill 33 called the Uvalde Strong Act, which I think is pretty appropriate given what happened. And part of that is requiring law enforcement officers, sheriff's departments, to train jointly with school districts that in the event of a horrific active shooter situation, they know what to do and there's a clear command structure. And one of the people there that day was the mayor of Uvalde, Don McLaughlin, who is now a state representative representing Uvalde. And he was the one who authored this law. Let's take a look at what he has to say.
I went to the Robb site, the Robb school, within 10 minutes of this going down. And what I saw was pure chaos that day. No coordination. Nobody took a command position. It was just chaos. And after that, we had meetings with law enforcement, and we had some of the law enforcement agencies didn't come to the meetings. And so I said, this is wrong. We need to change this. And, one of the things I talked to the families about, they wanted some form of accountability and training with officers. And although a lot of them would like to see more accountability, HB 33 does that.
And you heard the representative mention parents. They didn't get everything they wanted. They really have been fighting for the last, several years to get tighter gun laws, but that did not pass and will not pass in a Republican-dominated legislature.
Another aspect of security is cybersecurity, which a lot of people may not think about, a lot of parents may not think about, because a lot of the focus is on the physical security of the school building. But there's a lot of money that's being poured into cybersecurity. Take a look at what we uncovered.
I got the first phone call at 4:30 a.m. The phone call is can't log in, and it may be completely an issue with a password, or it could be all the way to an incident.
New this morning, we're hearing from Allen ISD about an extortion threat from a group of hackers.
It came in the middle of the night. A ransomware attack paralyzing Allen schools. But within hours, the district's IT engineers had student computers back up and running. It seemed as if it had all been quickly resolved. But behind the scenes, back here in the data center...
One word, urgency. Like it just invades you.
The district's director of technology, Nelson Orta, says a massive repair and investigation operation had just begun.
I would say probably 3 months before I felt a sense of, it was tough.
Not to mention expensive. School records obtained by the I-Team revealed the hidden costs of a cyber attack. Allen ISD never sent a penny in ransom to the hackers, but between security contractors, IT repairs, and legal fees, the response to this one cyber attack added up to more than $385,000.
The reality is that these things cost money.
And this is why 2 years ago at the state capitol in Austin, lawmakers set up the K-12 Cybersecurity Initiative, setting aside $55 million to help Texas schools protect their computer systems, money that schools said they desperately needed. Yet an I-team investigation found nearly 2 years into the program, only a fraction of the money has been used. Of the more than 900 Texas school districts eligible for the funding, only 300 have applied. By the time the 2-year program ends in September, the state says less than half of the money will be used, meaning Texas schools will have left nearly $28 million on the table.
Cybersecurity is 24/7, and every single device that we have in the district, every single person is a point of risk.
Red Oak ISD, just south of Dallas, applied for and received nearly $30,000 from the K-12 Cybersecurity Initiative. The school's chief technology director, Megan Korn, says the money paid for a cyber detection response system,
Which really just provides us a security guard to watch over all the devices and tell us if there's anything malicious on a device. And that's something that I couldn't staff. I'm not gonna be able to have a staff member that's gonna be able to watch all of the devices all at the same time.
Do you think it's prevented a...
Absolutely, absolutely.
As of January, the state reports that detection response systems funded by the program have blocked more than 1,400 ransomware-related activities. However, many school districts remain hesitant to apply, fearing that if the funding ends, they would have to pull money from other parts of the budget or quickly change cybersecurity plans.
Initially, it's always concerning to jump into something and not know, is this going to be sustainable?
The Texas Education Agency is asking lawmakers for another $42 million to fund the initiative for 2 more years. If that happens, state officials are convinced more schools will sign up.
You have to keep learning, you have to keep evolving, because the threats evolve.
Last month, Allen ISD became the latest school district to benefit from the K-12 Cybersecurity Initiative. The district received $175,000 to booster its defense against cyber threats, safeguarding what they already know is a prime target.
Prosper ISD was one of the highest scoring districts in North Texas for the 2023 A through F ratings. They scored a 90, giving them a hard to earn A. Though when I talked to Superintendent Holly Ferguson, she says these ratings are not all they're chalked up to be. How much stock should people put into these ratings?
It is not a focus in Prosper ISD. How in the world could our work that we do every single day for students, staff, parents in this community be defined by one letter? So the A really, it's insulting.
Is this even useful today?
No, the ratings are not useful today. Actually, the ratings and the scores that we receive on students, even if we had gotten them in the school year, we receive those at the end of the school year. So we refer to it many times in education as dead data. It's not the best setup.
So the TEA releases these ratings without physically coming to the schools.
It's a little bit of a slap in the face. You just hear, well, it's a D school, a F school, and that's a sad thing that we've put those letters basically around each and every kid's neck and every single teacher and educator. We don't wear our A in support of those schools that are an F because it doesn't matter.
Are parents aware? Are they calling you about the A rating, or are they aware of what's going on?
I've not received one email, one phone call. No one has stopped me at an event to say, oh, that's so amazing that you're an A district.
The A through F ratings came out at the same time the school voucher bill passed. What are your thoughts on the timing of that?
That was all strategic. It was political in nature, and it was the ability to reinforce to the state of Texas, to parents in the state of Texas, to say schools are failing, they're not doing well. Then it makes it okay for vouchers, it makes it okay for people to think poorly about their public schools, to think poorly about the educators in the school district. And it's harsh, and it's cruel, and it's unfair.
The TEA Commissioner Mike Morath has told CBS News Texas he agrees the 2023 ratings are not beneficial for schools today, though he stands by the argument that districts should still be scored just like every student is.
Do those school systems issue GPAs to kids in high school? Do they have class ranks? The concept of taking multiple pieces of student performance and combining them into grades is something that our schools have been doing for well over 100 years.
The 2024 A through F ratings have also not been released because of a separate lawsuit. Similar to the 2023 lawsuit, many districts across Texas sued Mike Morath for his grading methods. Until that lawsuit is resolved, the 2024 results will not be shared.
According to the Texas Classroom Teachers Association, Olfen ISD, just east of San Angelo, was the first to implement a 4-day week in the 2016-2017 school year. Since then, at least 18 other public school districts in the North Texas area have made the change. As a rule, districts designate a day off, either Mondays or Fridays. Texas state law requires schools to provide a minimum of 75,600 minutes of instruction per school year. So instead of making the school year longer, many districts opt to make the school day longer. For example, for the first year, Kennedale ISD plans to increase their school day by 15 minutes, creating an 8-hour school day for students. Ponder ISD says they will increase their school day by 30 minutes. But missing that 5th day may impact students when it comes to learning retention. The TEA released a report in February comparing the academic impact of a 4- and 5-day school week. Results are based off the 2022-23 school year STAR test scores in reading, language arts, and math. In RLA, 6th through 8th grade students attending a 4-day school week scored an average of 6 to 8 percentage points lower than students who attended a 5-day school week. In math, 4th through 6th graders had an average of 5 to 8 percentage points lower.
But the TEA also cites national research that shows evidence of academic growth from districts that adopted a 4-day school week as long as they either made the school day or school year longer. But that growth didn't happen as fast as in 5-day school week districts. On average, students in a 4-day school week attend 32 fewer days per year compared to the national average for a 5-day school week. So why do this? Nearly every school district has the same answers: to recruit and retain quality teachers.
How do we retain people? What's going to make it attractive for them to stay in this profession? Our starting salary is $60,000 to be able to compete against the giants that are around us, and we can't keep going down that path. And so we had to look at something innovative to sit there and what would attract staff.
According to the TEA, for the 2024-25 school year, the total number of employed teachers fell for the first time since 2011, and the number of teachers leaving rose. Other reasons districts may choose to go to a 4-day school week is because it will save them money. They also hope it will help in student attendance. The more kids who show up for school, the more money the district gets.
We are now joined with Monica Cortez. She is our Learning Curve producer, has worked behind the scenes on a lot of these stories. And Monica, you've reached out to a lot of these 4-day school week schools. How are they doing with this?
They actually love the schedule. They say it's been very good for teacher retention, and the quality of applicants has risen. They've also noted that student attendance is up also.
A big question too is, what do parents do with their child on the day where they're not in school? Is there childcare provided on that day?
Right, a big concern. The districts I spoke to said yes, they have worked with daycares in the area to facilitate some kind of childcare, either at a discounted rate or for free.
Okay, Monica, you're a mom. I'm a mom. I can't imagine how it would work for a number of reasons. One, for the childcare reason that you brought up, and two, like transitioning my child. On Sunday nights, we're trying to get them back into the groove on Monday. But I mean, do you, just talking to other parents who you've interviewed and just personally, what are the perceptions around this?
There's a lot of people on both sides. For some families, the 4-day school week is better for them. They get that extra day of bonding. But for some other parents, they need their kids in school 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I was curious, do you see this really growing in popularity throughout the state?
I think there is a chance, yes. You know, for districts who can handle it, I think it could be a good plan for them to save money if they, are trying to keep teachers. I mean, a 4-day school week is appealing.
Because they got the teacher prep time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'll just say from the I-team perspective, I'd be very curious to see what happens to enrollment when these districts move to 4 days a week. Do you see enrollment drop when it comes to those families that it doesn't work for? And where do those families go?
So there's definitely a lot of things that we're still figuring out, still asking questions about. And yeah, there's a lot to flesh out when it comes to that. But we'll have more coming up after this break.
Well, that's the learning curve. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you learned something about what took place at the Texas Capitol this session when it comes to education. And as lawmakers always say, the students are our future and they are our future workforce. So it's important to get it right.
And I know for parents, a lot of us see kids as our greatest legacy. So we're definitely going to be looking at the numbers or the data, what the evidence shows on how these programs, how these bills that were passed this session play out and the impact that they have. And maybe one day we will have a 4-day work week.
That would be incredible if that did happen.
I'll take it.
For parents watching this at home, for school leaders watching this, we hope that you learned something, gathered something new from our roundtable discussion. I'm here with Andrea Lucia, Jack Fink. Thank you for joining this conversation with me. I'm Lacey Beasley, and we'll see you guys later.